Rap grind, react time, see acts 9, cap minds, gotta retract lines, I fact find. Relax, I'm perhaps I'm just that blind. I gotta say something, cause saying nothing's for that mind. Context time, salvation for the unlikely. This blasphemer church persecutor had Nike all in his psyche, just do it. When it came to what might be the persecution of the branches, the divine had been rooting despite the challenges. What all God saw was Saul lack. Was the light, and so the light came to Saul and he falls back. But the light claim on Saul took his eyes till he saw that. Being Saul, what he saw was the reason it's all black. All facts. But the Lord had people, they weren't accepting it. Ananias was honest and told him he wasn't getting it. He was fretting it, doubting that Jesus even knew the dude, until the Lord was like, nah, Ananias, he been renewed. Dudes doubting dudes conversions like they liars. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Dudes mad cause their music ain't reached the highest. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Fast forward, the culture is pretty bored with any music that's highlighting Jesus they see is morbid. They've been boxing me in, so I'm practicing with a forklift. Cause it's hard to be a fisherman when there's only swordfish. Lots of dudes with bars been doing it, trying to penetrate. But CHHing the letters they wanna celebrate. When they hear Jesus, that Bible will quickly hesitate. And some couldn't beat him and joined him and also denigrate. Then Kanye West got saved and it was surprising that old Kanye that they missing, God ain't revive him. His newfound faith gave him music that was inspiring. He always had choirs but now acquired the fire inside of a new convert. But some dudes got all smirks cause Jesus is king. Got some artists with feelings all hurt cause they ain't get support and their album got better joints, fam. Who got it better albums? Really missing the point, man. Dudes doubting dudes conversions like they liars. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Dudes mad cause their music ain't reached the highest. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Dudes acting like the skepticism is the wisest. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Dudes do it for the Lord but when nobody buys it. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Salvation is still popping, but when you famous believers will doubt you like they are Thomas. I'm honest, I've done it too, and professions aren't really credible. Thank the bread of life, but then later he's not edible. But I see a trend to the scriptures I had to pour through. Why with certain conversions or men they needed some more fruit? The apostles would baptize anybody that's with it. They wasn't looking for fruits that believing that Jesus did it. Some of them won't admit it, but they are the older brother who's angry because the father's celebrating another. There's people leaving the faith, shaming the throne of grace, and he's saying Jesus is king, but you acting like you the ace. So there's a con, and it's Kanye. Don't con Kanye, cause some of y'all's grace is to Grace Jones. You Sean J. We gotta do better than this, gotta do right, and be the Ananias that saying, brother, receive sight. Dudes is emotional, all in their feelings. Where's Strack when I need him? Philosophy.
All right.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to the basement where
theology meets the thoughts of life.
Right. So
we are back. I thought you were giving me that little thing to kind of like fill in the space. You were like, where theology meets the thoughts of life.
Yeah. So we are on. We're back. Welcome back, everybody, to the basement here on Wrath and Grace. Make sure you share the page. That'll help us get the word out. So make sure you share the page, facebook.com/Wrath and Grace. So make sure you put that on your feeds. That'll help us out. We go on every Wednesday at 9 p.m. here on facebook.com/Wrath and Grace, as we already said. And we also have a Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/The Basement. So make sure you check that out. And that track you heard was from Kirk Kennedy. And so if you want to check him out, just look him up, Kirk Kennedy, and you can look him up on Wrath and Grace to get more information on there. But yeah, we're back on live. And Wayne, if you want to intro the topic.
I mean,
dope.
That track was hot.
Right.
I wanted to listen to that song before we got started today because I felt like I really agreed with what he said in that song. Did you got to listen to it though, right?
Yeah.
What'd you think of it? We can't do a deep dive right now, but maybe we will later. But what'd you think of it? Your first thoughts?
It was a good plea. I thought I resonated with it because it was things I was already saying, and I think it's important for the church to be a little bit more careful, and to be more loving, to be more, and also be discerning at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to talk about that a little bit later, but it definitely voiced what I was feeling already.
Okay. Gotcha. Nice. Well, I was taking a look at some of the things that we've been doing lately, and I thought, man, that's crazy. We did 3 episodes. We did surviving cancel culture. That was dope. That was a different spin to that one. And then we followed that up with Man Up, Bro.
Yeah.
That was a fellas night.
Yep.
And then we followed that up with the ladies night, which was the name of that one was Woman Please.
I came up with that.
You did, man.
I usually don't come up with good titles, but I did like that one. You know?
I
was feeling that one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you were behind the scenes last week.
Yeah.
How did that feel?
Actually, it felt better. I didn't have to be on the spot. You know, I don't like being on the spot, but it felt better. You know, it was different. It's something that I'm used to. You know, doing sound and doing multimedia stuff. I find my comfort in the background.
Okay.
Rather than being up front. You know, saying something that could get me in trouble.
Okay, that's what's up. What's up, y'all? Everybody that's out there, we are back. We're back with another episode. So, this is episode 31. Is this your king? Or I'm going to do it a little bit. Matter of fact, I might as well do it right now. Give y'all where we got that from.
Is this your king? Huh? Is this your king?
Is this your king? Oh man.
Yeah.
Is this your king? So we're gonna be talking about a bunch of things today, but let me get into the intro. Now the wait is over. On October 25th, 2019, Kanye West released his 9th album, Jesus is King, and got back a hugely mixed reception. Lots of numbers and made most likely a long-lasting impact on the music industry, pop culture, Christian audiences, and pretty much any and every news industry you can think of. But what's the big hype anyway? Is this just another hip-hop album? Isn't this just another ungodly celebrity turned Christian who will most likely go back to his worldly ways in a little while? Is there really something major about proclaiming Jesus as king? Or is this statement soon to become an overused pop culture phrase that will mean nothing in a few weeks? Man has obsessed for a long, long time over who is king of this and of that. But is Jesus the one and only true king that actually is worth talking about? Let's discuss all of this and so much more tonight in episode 31 of The Basement. Is this your king? What you laugh about?
EC, man. Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Yo,
that
for
dude,
real, man. For
that
real.
dude is just classic, bro. That guy. It's just hard to focus with him. Maybe we should ban him from the page. I don't know.
No, all we got to do, and we've talked about this before, all we really have to do is just show that meme. We've held that on deck.
You know what? I got to put that on the setup so that way it could be the EC button just to make sure, you know, put him in check. You know
Like, yo,
what I'm
chill,
saying?
EC.
Yeah, I got you.
All right, so those of you that are watching, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't done it already, go ahead and hit the like button and share the video. Share the video on your timeline. Share the video with someone you know, someone you love, someone that may benefit from this. Mm-hmm. We want to get this out to as many people as possible. This message is serious, man. So go ahead and make sure you share and support The Basement, where theology meets the thoughts of life. Mad dramatic. Yeah. But anyway, man, thank y'all for tuning in. We're going to get into some of this content right here, right? So spoiler alert. Jesus is king, man. Jesus is king.
Right.
We haven't done this yet on the podcast. What? Because a couple weeks ago, we did talk about when, like, we heard Kanye came to Jesus, and we talked about him in the Sunday services and the album that was coming out. And then we got into other celebrities that professed faith in Jesus, but a bunch of them fell off, and some of them just didn't show fruit at all.
Right.
Then we did talk about the faithful few, the ones like No Malice and Jin, and we talked about some of those celebrities. Apollonia.
Yeah,
her. There was a couple celebrities that actually were the real deal, at least from what we could tell, when it came to coming to Christ. So now that we listen to the album, Jesus is King, I've heard it probably about 20, maybe 25 times. How many times did you listen to it?
Plenty. On my way up to visiting a college with my daughter, so I just had it on loop.
Okay.
So that was crazy.
And that was like
a 3.5 hour drive.
What did your daughter say?
She was knocked out. She was
sleeping. For real? Dang.
Right.
Did the album slay her in the spirit, or she was just tired?
She was tired.
Oh, okay. All right.
She was tired. No offerings, no slit.
None of that, huh?
No.
Okay. So, what did you think of the album?
You know, I have to give him props. You know, the quality of the album was sound. You know, of course, the mix. You know, being an engineer, I was hearing the quality of it. The production, I would say, was creative, very diverse. You know what I mean? I just love the diversity in the production. And one thing I appreciated about the album that really got to me was that almost like it's like I told you before. I heard Timothy Brindle's The Great Awakening album, and I didn't know him at the time. So when I heard it, I felt like, genuine conversion happened. That's what I heard on the album. Something happened to this dude. I don't even know the dude, but I can hear it in the album.
Timothy Brindle.
Yeah, in The Great Awakening, right?
So wait, are you saying Timothy Brindle you didn't always do Christian rap?
No, I think he was a MC in the world. He rapped, before that.
So you heard?
No, I didn't hear that.
Oh, okay, got you.
I'm just saying, when I heard the Great Awakening album,
okay,
I was like, something genuine happened here. Something real.
I got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I got that same vibe with Kanye's album.
Okay,
You
got
know,
you.
I could be wrong, but I'm telling you what I experienced as I was listening to it. And I think when I heard the album, I would say that it put to shame those who, in Christian hip hop have settled to be covert with the gospel.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
For
I
sure.
also felt that too. Like, he's just blatantly open with Jesus, with the gospel. And it's like, I kind of thought about other people that kind of settled to be covert with it. And I think it showed how backwards many have become because of their wanting to be culturally sensitive. You know what I mean?
For
like,
sure.
Kanye's not concerned with that, and I appreciated that. And I appreciate that the gospel is being proclaimed at his, with the pastor, what's his name? The pastor that preaches for him on the Sundays.
Jason or
no, Adam
Tyson.
Adam Tyson,
Yeah.
right? So the gospel is being proclaimed, and the album was dope. And now I'm just taking the position of praying and hoping for his growth.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But overall, the album had an impact on me. I ain't gonna lie.
I'm still bumping the album. I was listening to it this morning on my way to work. Heard the album, love the album. Sonically, it sounds great. Musically, it sounds wonderful. I've always been a fan of Kanye because of his style. He's brash. He's bold. He makes you think when you listen to his music, and then on top of that, he helps you vibe out with his music. Has that like soulfulness, and it has the choir sound to it. I love that.
Yeah,
I was raised on that type of sound.
Me
The soul, the
too,
choir, boldness, like that. That to me embodies gospel music.
Yeah.
So him doing
Yeah.
gospel music, just naturally he fits right in.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't have the vibes that I did with like when KRS-One came out with. I'm trying to remember when he came out with Spiritual Minded. I think it was his 10th album back in 2002.
Right.
He was trying to be gospel, whatever. You can tell by listening to that album that it wasn't Christ-centered. It was just a spiritual exploration. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But Kanye's album is different.
Right.
It was just a blatant, like, in your face Jesus with it.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
And I'm gonna stop right here real quick. I'm gonna just say I know everybody's done this topic already, by the way, because I'm thinking to myself, like, I wonder what the listeners are thinking. Like, is this
Here we
just
go
another
again.
Jesus is King? This is so much more today, y'all. I'm just letting y'all know this is so much more. We're only starting with this because I want to get this out of the way so we can get into some of the heavier content. I did put a question in the comment section, and I'm going to ask you it in just a minute. Or maybe I'll ask you right now then, because this would be a perfect time. I'm going to put it in the comment section one more time for those that are out there. My question for the audience and my question for you, Los, is, do you think there's too much hype around Jesus is King being released and Kanye's conversion?
Too much hype. I think there's too much controversy. I'll say that. I think there's too much controversy in it. Right. And I think it's uncalled for. I think, especially within Christians, you know, Christians should be in prayer. They should and wait. You know, I think there is too much going on.
Gotcha.
That's all I got.
Sorry, I was looking at your wife's comment. I don't know if she was being sarcastic or not. She said, "We still talking about Kanye? I thought we were talking about Jesus is King."
Yeah.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. I just explained that we're doing this in the intro to kind of let y'all know where we're coming from with this episode, and to also update everybody on where things have been, because we took a couple weeks off dealing with surviving cancel culture,
right,
dealing with the fellas night and the ladies night, which was talking about the importance of the local church and why we need men and women in the church attending, serving, and leading in certain areas, right? What that looks like in each church, what that looks like in our homes. And we did take a couple weeks off from what's going on out here. So now that we're getting back into it, I thought this would be a perfect way to transition back into reality.
I agree.
You know, back to life, back to reality. All right, so check it. Check it. So I think when it comes to the hype, I think that there can be too much hype and it can lead to idolatry when you're focused on Kanye.
Yeah.
When you're focused on Kanye and the music that he's putting out and what he's doing, then it becomes too much hype. But when you're focused on the music and God getting the glory out of the music, and God getting the glory out of changing someone like Kanye, somebody thought that it could never happen, right? Or any of us, right? When we think about conversion and music that glorifies God, that is when I think it's just right. It's just right to give that much stuff the hype. But when we focus on Kanye, just Kanye as a person, or the music just as something to listen to, then it becomes idolatry. And I think we need to chill out. I think also it can become too much hype when we want to tear down somebody that we think is not a genuine believer. So let's say you're on the flip side of this and you think that he's a fraud. When you're spending all your time tearing somebody else down, then it also becomes idolatry as well.
And I think even presuming on people who you know, listen to the album, or, you know, are hopeful. You know what I'm saying? Like I've seen comments where people are saying things like, you know, people looking for a hero in the Christian, you know, in Christianity, and it's like, that's not even the case. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we're hoping and we're prayerful, and we have to be discerning. So of course I listen to the album. You know, so yeah. I wasn't running with it saying, yo, this is gonna be a great album. I was like, yo, I gotta hear what's going on.
If you go back a couple weeks, because we did talk about this a little bit on The Gospel Goes Hollywood, episode 26. If you go back, and you can even check the basement out, because I posted clips of the whole episode. If you go back just 5 weeks ago, we were dealing with this topic right here. What do we do when we see a famous or a notable person get saved? And I put quotations around that. Like, what do we do? Do we immediately trust their word? Or do we try to use discernment? Do we test their fruits? Do we test the spirits? Like, do we look for evidence, or we just take their word for what it is? And I think we've been looking for evidence. And I think that we've been seeing evidence of a change in his life from the way that he's conducting himself even in the interviews, not just music.
Yeah.
Even in his interviews, I even heard at his most recent Sunday service that Kanye stepped back, because that was the big problem. People were like, why did he get saved? And then automatically he still wants the spotlight. I heard that he fell back, like he's falling back at his services. He might get up there because it's called Kanye service, so they want to hear from him. He might get up on the mic, say, how y'all doing? Thank y'all for coming out. But I heard that he's been falling back and letting the choir leaders and the choir members do what they do and the preachers do what they do. I heard that there was a really good word spoken just recently too.
Yeah, and the rumor is he's being encouraged to do that.
Yeah.
You know,
which is
step
cool.
back a little bit and, you know,
and let God do what he do.
Right, and get discipled, get, you know, built up. And from what we know, Adam Tyson is still going there, right?
Yeah.
Teaching them.
Yeah, my bad. I was putting the hands up because Nelson said, y'all got to plug that new Kurt Kennedy song. Bro, we did. I was on top of that, man. You should already know me. I hit Kurt up before the episode and I said, can we use your song to open up the podcast? So we opened up the podcast to Kurt Kennedy's response and his thoughts and reflection on this topic right here. Let me ask you one more, because we did talk about the album. We talked about his conversion. We talked about everyone's reception to it all, right? Because it's good and bad. I said it was mixed reception. Have we seen any more impact yet from this project?
Yeah. You know, again, it's it's actually doing something that, you know, sadly, I didn't want to see. I'm seeing what I would call the elder brother complex. You know?
Yeah.
And people out there are being hypercritical of Kanye and also of those who are giving him the benefit of the doubt and hoping that the Lord is moving and encouraging him. And, you know what I'm saying? So, like, it's actually, I think, doing, for me, when I'm looking at, you know, social media and things that people are commenting on it, it's exposing a lot, you know, and I think it's sad. Yeah, you know, it's sad to see what's going on out there, man. Yeah. I think that's why Kurt's track was helpful.
Yeah,
you know,
and we got requests for playing it again. We will play that again this episode. We will just give us a little bit of time to get some deep content as we have this discussion.
Right.
So yeah, I would say, you know, we're seeing Jesus is King everywhere, man. Right. I love it to hear all people groups. Jesus is King. Jesus is King. Right. I know that there's a compilation out there of all the people saying Jesus is King. So I'm gonna have to look for it, and we're gonna play it one time on the podcast one day, and just like maybe we could play the video so that people can actually see visually who's saying Jesus is King, because I think that's dope.
You know what? I think it would help people to know biblically why we're rejoicing, even though we don't have God's vantage point on seeing Kanye's heart.
Right.
You know, because we're flawed. We don't know. I wanted to bring up Paul's situation in Philippians chapter 1. I think it's a good, sober. I don't know if you're going to.
No. That's good. I was going to say, before you do that, you guys that are in the comment section, go ahead and read that question that I put in there. Do you think that there's too much hype around Kanye, the album, the conversion, all of that? Do you think there's too much hype? Go ahead and answer that. Go ahead and like the video, and go ahead and share the video as my brother Los is breaking this down for us.
Yeah, I think this will help y'all to understand where we're coming from, because it's actually, you know, something that Paul did that we're doing. Let's say Kanye does have, you know, selfish ambition, and he actually lacks sincerity, that he's fooling everybody or whatever, which, you know, I'm not hoping for and I don't believe, okay? But let's say that's the case. You know, Paul in Philippians chapter 1 verses 12 through 18 was in that same situation, you know? So if you read that passage in Philippians 1, 12 through 18, Paul was in prison. And then you see that some preach Christ from goodwill, and they did it out of love, and they knew that Paul was put in prison for the defense of the gospel. So that Paul was, you know, encouraged that people were proclaiming the gospel out of goodwill and out of love, you know. But there were those who preached Christ from envy and rivalry, it says. And he did it out of selfish ambition and without sincerity, he says. And he thought that Paul would be afflicted in his imprisonment. Now, check out Paul's conclusion in verse 18. This is going to help you. What then? Only that in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, meaning the two that we just talked about, Christ is proclaimed. And then he says, and in that I rejoice. So he's rejoicing over cats that, are doing it, even if it's out of selfish ambition and without sincerity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, because Christ is being proclaimed. So
perfect text.
I think that shuts, that's kind of the mic drop right now. You know what I'm saying? Like the case is made. We're not assuming on God's view of things. Only God knows ultimately. What we're saying is we can only hope, we can only pray, but even if it's out of selfish ambition and without sincerity, Paul here rejoiced because the gospel is being proclaimed, Christ is being proclaimed, and we're doing the same. Jesus is king.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're proclaiming and rejoicing at the fact that unbelievers, when you ask them, what's Kanye's album again? Jesus is king.
Right.
Amen.
right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
that's where we're coming from.
Yeah.
No different than Paul.
So why is this so important? Why is it so important that we proclaim Jesus to be king? I think that the more and more that we proclaim Jesus to be king, it brings more awareness to who Jesus is.
Yeah, we forget that.
Right? Who he is. But even you could say like the evidence of Jesus, it adds more credibility to his existence. Because we live in a skeptical world. They said that since the Jesus is King album has been released, Jesus or Christianity has been searched on Google. Was it 800,000 times?
Yeah, more than
over.
Usual. Absolutely.
Over 800,000. So you're talking about 1 million hits on what is Christianity true, what is Christianity, who is Jesus. It adds so much more awareness, and these are conversation starters. Because I got to start some good conversation at work with people of all different faiths.
Right.
And I don't mean like one is Hindu, one is Muslim. When I say all different faiths, I think we think too broad whenever we say of all different faiths. I'm talking about even the ones that might say they believe Jesus is king, but you can tell from their life they don't believe Jesus is king. That's one faith. Then you have another faith that, a person that will say, I believe Jesus is king, and then display it in their life as well. And then you have all in between there, and then all outside of that faith right there. There's all different faiths with it. We're walking around able to talk to people and get these conversations started. Dustin Benge, I don't know who that is, but I like this. He says, I am more surprised God saved me than I am that he saved Kanye West. I am the worst sinner I know.
Right.
I think he's a preacher or theologian. I don't know. Do you know him? Dustin Benge?
I believe I heard of him, yeah.
Okay, but anyway, that was shared, and that's so true. Like, the fact that God would save us in the first place. We have no room to speak on Kanye and saying, oh, no. That's not happening. I don't believe that. Because for real, it should surprise us more that God saved us.
Yeah, for sure.
Than anyone else. Because we can see our sin the best.
Right.
And if God can save us individually, each one of us, right? I have no doubt he can save anyone else, because I'm the worst sinner that I know.
Right. And yeah, that's good. I think going back to the fact that he's king, he owns everything. That's the other reality to, who he is, know, and that includes your salvation, your life. So saying that Jesus is king is not just acknowledging him as king, but it's also acknowledging that everything in the earth, in the universe is his. He possesses it.
Amen.
It's all his.
Shai Lynn said, one of my favorite parts of this Kanye thing, People who hate both Kanye and the God that he's praising and choose to mock and ridicule the album, they still have to say Jesus is king while doing so.
Right.
Jesus is king. And I thought, man, that was dope right there to share. Because that's what it is. No matter what you have to say, whenever you're talking about this topic, you still got to say Jesus is king. So Paul said, as long as God gets the glory, and I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
But as we're talking about Jesus being the King of Kings and even Lord of Lords, right? And why it's so important to proclaim Jesus as King. I wanted to read E.C. Holmes' post because he said something that, as we're talking about that, I think it's important. He said, after watching and reading people's response to Kanye, I'm seeing you don't have to be a hater to sound like one. Sort of seems like if Kanye turned out not to be a Christian, certain people would be happy they were right instead of broken over the reality that he would spend eternity in hell. Other people are flat out hating because of the attention he's getting. What did you expect? I choose to be excited about what I've seen and heard, not only from him, but the pastor who has been meeting with him weekly for Bible study. Don't let your skepticism overshadow hoping for the best. After a certain point, it sounds like God's ability to save is being questioned. That's just my opinion. And so when he said that, I thought this brings us into a whole nother realm, which is, are we really happy that people are being saved, or are we only happy when certain people are being saved?
Yeah, and why are we acting like Jesus isn't king?
Right, like I don't like what Kanye said, yo. I don't like what Kanye said.
They calling him the Trojan horse, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Coming in and he's just going to deceive all sorts of people and whatever. Now, again, I do warn against false teachers. The scriptures talk about that. But don't lose sight of who's king. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's sovereign.
Yeah.
You know, he's in control.
As we're talking about kings, right? Because man has been obsessed with wanting to be king. Right? That's actually like one of the biggest phrases today. We are kings. Or they'll walk up, like especially black folk, will walk up to one another and be like, what's up, king? I said, what's up, king? Like, they'll yell it. That's a battle rapper thing. That's just a normal urban culture to call each other kings and queens.
And I think even coming from a charismatic background, we're used to, calling ourselves royalty.
Royalty.
Let's make the carpet purple.
Right, because we are royalty, though. We've talked about this. We are royalty. Like, remember we said that's a buzzword for certain Christians, like calling ourselves royalty. But if Jesus is king and we are his servants, who are also his family members, who are God's other children, then we're royalty as well.
Yeah, there's truth in that. I think what happened was it's the emphasis on that over Jesus being king,
Yeah. When you think about it, man has been obsessed with wanting to be king so long, but for the most part, it hasn't been a good thing. It's been one of those things where we want to be king to have power and to rule and to have authority over other people. Right. It's for selfish gain, selfish reasons that we want to be king a lot of the times. Yeah. At least humanity in general has been like that.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Christians, if we're any type of royalty, it's only so that we can hand our crown over to Christ.
Yeah, we're kings and we're royalty with crosses, you know? And I think we forget that this king, I remember in Luke chapter 19 as an example, right? And I remember when he came into Jerusalem and they said, blessed is the king who comes in the name of the Lord. Yeah. Giving them props, peace in heaven and glory in the highest, they said.
Yeah.
He was coming in, they were rejoicing. Yeah. They were loving on him. But later on, you see them saying in Luke 23:21, crucify him.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that we focus so much on the benefits, on the royalty, on the beauty of it, that there is kind of like a gritty part of it.
That's not the part we want to talk about. We want to talk about all the glitz and the glamour of being royalty.
Yeah, this king suffered. This king died. This king took upon a cross. This king was accused. This king laid down his life. This king suffered. This king was, cursed on a tree. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is not the king that the world likes, because this king is calling you to walk the same path.
Yeah.
And that's going back to Kanye. That's the path that, what I'm saying, I just want to observe and pray that as God, as I believe, is working on him, that God would teach him through those valleys, and through cross bearing, because we're disciples,
Yeah.
I think the world mocks Christ. It mocks Christ. It says the same thing that people said there: crucify him. We don't want him sitting on the throne, and so that the aspect of his lordship, of his kingship, includes the path of sorrow.
Yeah.
But one day, of course, it will lead to eternal life, and of course, we'll be seated in high places with them. That's the beauty of it. But it doesn't come without a cost.
Yeah, see, that's not what we want to talk about.
Right.
That's not what we want to talk about when we talk about being king, because we just want, we want the crown, the real crown, not a crown of thorns. We want the real crown.
Right.
We want the robes. We want the power. We want all of the good things and all of the nice things that come with it. We don't want any of the struggle.
Yeah.
We've struggled enough as people, and we just want to be kings.
Right.
And queens. And the fact, we live in real life where people want to be king of anything, man. We fight over king of every little thing.
Right.
Anything that we can compete against somebody else with, I'm trying to be king, man.
Yeah, and pastors got to know they're not kings too.
Yeah.
I've been around the block long enough, and I remember one situation where a pastor was actually called by another brother in the church the king of this church.
That's crazy,
He's a king
man.
here. I'm like, man, it took me, I was just like, no, I only have one king. You know what I'm saying? And I bow before no man. You know what I mean?
The fact that Kanye, who was so narcissistic and prideful, I'm not saying he's not that way anymore, but we knew what he really, what his image was like before. The fact that he goes from that to this, where he called himself king, and now he's calling Jesus king,
Right.
and he's stepping back. That lets us know where his mind really is.
Yeah.
And where we need to be. Like, we don't need to follow with the rest of the culture, which is always trying to be king of something. We played these games as kids: King of the Hill, King of the Court,
Right.
King of the Court. In basketball, you know, look at LeBron, King James.
King James, yeah.
We always want to be the GOAT. We always want to be the greatest. We always want to be the king of everything, man.
We don't even know what that means.
We don't.
You know
We
what I'm
don't
saying?
know what, we don't know the cost to be the boss. We don't know it.
Right.
But we just want to we just want it given to us.
Do you know, like, peasants or even like common folk in the kingdom where there was an actual king, they were very careful about talking about the king. You could be beheaded, your land could be taken, and so they would talk about the king very carefully. You know what I'm saying? It's a shame that we've lost that, reverence, even more with Christ, because he sees everything. No wonder he says, for every careless word you'll be judged on it,
Yeah.
because he sees it all, he hears it all. Oh man.
Yeah, my bad. I was reading one of the comments. David says, I watched enough of Kanye interviews to cringe when I hear arrogance and pride because of his platform, but I need to remember he is new to faith and how many times I am still prideful. Yeah, I think we forget that too.
Lewis
I agree,
said,
David.
Yeah, Lewis said, I don't trust Hollywood at all generally, initially, as far as a Christian profession, because many make it just mere taboo. But I know God also saves and rescues lives there also.
Yeah.
True that.
If we let Hollywood tell it, man, how would we view being a king, what a king looks like? Because for a long time, Hollywood has tried to teach us what a king should look like.
Right.
I mean, it's going on for years. Think of some of the top movies that deal with royalty. Troy, Lord of the Rings, 300, Gladiator, Braveheart, Thor, and so many more aim to show us Hollywood's and even history's version of what a good king and what a bad king looks like. I even think of the 3 Disney movies that I grew up on and I loved as a child. Mulan, Aladdin, and my favorite,
Lion King.
Lion King, man. Lion King. I remember Simba in that Lion King movie where he thought being a king just meant like exercising rule and authority over other people, doing what you want to do. And his dad let him know real quick, man, that's not what being a king is.
Right.
Being a true king is being selfless and putting others before your own self. Even though you have the power and the authority to put yourself first, you're putting others first. You're loving others as yourself. Now, obviously, the gospel wasn't spelled out like that in Lion King. But that's what I got as a kid because I was growing up in the church watching Lion King. I put two, hand in hand, those two things together, and I realized, man, that's a really good message right there. And Simba had a lot to learn. He had a lot, he had many years to be humbled before he finally came back as the true king. I mean, there's a whole message in that movie, man, because Scar betrayed his own brother. And I mean, there's just so many moral lessons in that movie that if you wanted to preach a couple sermons from that, you probably could somehow. I'm sure somebody out there has done it already.
Lion King series.
A Lion King series, for real.
Man.
Yeah, Kev, Black Panther. That's exactly what we got the name of the title of this episode.
Yeah.
Might as well do it again. So this is from the Black Panther. This is another movie where we really talk about royalty and being a king.
Is this your king? Huh? Is this your king?
Woo.
I hope they don't mute us on Facebook.
Nah, listen, man. I've seen other podcasts play little clips like that and they don't get muted.
Okay, we'll see.
I don't think they will. We'll see. But anyway, I even think about the C.S. Lewis books, Chronicles of Narnia, and how I learned as a kid reading those books a little bit more about Jesus from the way that C.S. Lewis described Aslan. The way he described Aslan was like in a majestic, powerful, and fearful way.
Yeah.
It was like, man. As a kid, I didn't realize that was Jesus he was talking about until I actually looked into it a little bit more. But as a kid, I was like, man, Aslan sounds scary, but I like him. I like him a lot. I wish I had Aslan protecting me. As a kid, I'm reading the books thinking that, and then as I got older and found out that was his way of spinning what we see in the scriptures for children, I was like, well, I like that.
I don't think I understood even what a king was or whatever until I started doing Easter plays or, in the church, where I had to play Jesus. I played Jesus in Easter plays. I'll never do that again, of course, you know what I'm saying? But that's when I had to dress, a certain way or whatever. And I was just wondering, okay, a crown, but,
Yeah.
So I started thinking about it and, okay, what is a king? So I studied the kings in the Old Testament. So it's just real interesting to see that the pattern I've seen in Scripture is that these men had power. They had authority, but man, how they squandered that authority and power, you know?
Yeah.
And then the one who comes, Christ, never squandered his authority. In fact, he laid himself down. He was lowly. He was meek, but yet he was the king of the universe. It's just a mind-blowing, wow. He could have done away with everything that he already owns, but he laid his life down as a king.
Right. And Jesus always has gone against the grain when it comes to like what man views to be a good king, he's
Yeah,
always
always.
went against the grain.
Right.
And I when we look throughout the New Testament, it's no, like especially the gospel accounts, it's no surprise that they rejected Jesus because he's not the king that they were waiting for. He's not the king they were looking for.
Wanted to be freed from chains, physical chains, rather than sin. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. This king was crucified, you know, and he didn't come with the white horse like he will later, you know. And really, you know, so someone hanging on a cross doesn't look victorious. He looked defeated, you know. But he was defeating death. You know what I mean? It's sad. They saw his lowliness, his meekness as other than not as someone that isn't sovereign and in control. That's another thing I think a lot of people get wrong, is that meekness and lowliness and humility are strengths. They're not weaknesses. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes we look for power in very powerful characters, you know. But meekness, lowliness, and gentleness and humility, it takes more strength, right, to do those things rather than the other. And Jesus fully embodied that, you know, in the incarnation.
Yeah.
He never ceased to be king. He became a servant, but he was still king. You know, it's amazing.
I was listening to a sermon, and John MacArthur pointed out, he said that when we look at that scene in the gospel when Jesus was being crucified, they always put an inscription above the person that they were crucifying as to the reason that they were being crucified. Like, why are they being crucified? You'll just look no further than the head of the cross. And so, you know, on one person you might see robber, another person above their head you'll see murderer.
All right.
Do you remember what was on the inscription above Jesus's head?
The King of the Jews?
Yeah, King of the Jews. And so people were like, nah, like the ones that wanted Jesus killed. Nah, put on there that he said he was the King of the Jews. And Pilate, knowing that he already felt guilty, he didn't want Jesus' blood on his own hands. I thought it was just cool how he decided to ignore what they were saying. I'm not going to put, he said he was a king. I'm just going to put King of the Jews. So why was Jesus crucified? For being King of the Jews.
Right.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
You were crucified for being king, not just crucified as a king or the crucified king. The reason why you were crucified was for being king.
And in being crucified, he was victorious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know? With a crown of thorns. With a crown of thorns, man.
And that's why the world doesn't like him, you know?
Yeah.
He doesn't make much of himself, even though it was making much of himself on the cross, you know, but that's not why he came. But I think the very act of dying on the cross did make much of Christ. But his heart wasn't in that. It wasn't making much of the Father. And I'm telling you, man, every time we talk about it, it's like, yeah, it just puts our pride and our expectations on blast, you know?
Absolutely.
And that, I hope, going back to Kanye, I hope he gets that right. And I think he is, you know?
I wanted to read this real quick. I was looking at the Beatitudes, and Matthew 5 verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I thought, man, the poor in spirit get to inherit the kingdom. As we're talking about Jesus being king, and we're talking about his kingdom, who inherits the kingdom? The poor in spirit. And then we go down a little bit more in verse 10. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
The poor in spirit and those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. That's a daily reminder to us that the kingdom of heaven is ours. What an inheritance.
Yeah.
From this great, mighty king that we serve.
Yeah.
And we also got to remember that the meek, humble, and merciful king is Jesus. He is the king who forgives the debt we could never pay back. Do you remember that parable?
Yeah.
That parable?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus being that king that paid the debt that we could never pay back. We talked about that a little while ago. What episode was that? I don't remember.
You're the episode king.
Yeah. Oh, forgiveness. Forgiving others.
Okay.
Forgive your enemies. I think that was like episode 27.
Right.
So, yeah. Jesus being the king in that parable who forgives the debt we can never pay back. We got to remember that. David says, I would love to see a true biblical movie trilogy of King David in a Lord of Rings format. That would be dope.
It would be dope. Yeah.
I'm surprised Hollywood hasn't done that yet.
Man. Don't get me started with that.
Idmalu said, enjoying this topic. Thank you, my brothers in the Lord. May the king reign in our hearts.
Amen.
And we're going to talk about that in just a second. Chris says Times Square was lit up with Jesus as king. And Tiffany answered my question. My question was, do you think that there's been too much hype behind all of this? Jesus is king, Kanye being converted. Tiff says, to answer the question, I think we should be hyped that someone with such a major platform is proclaiming Jesus as king. How genuine is it? Oh, how genuine it is, no one knows. But to go from calling himself Jesus to now proclaiming Jesus through his album, come on, that's something to be hype about.
Right.
That's absolutely true. Her husband is very lucky. He's a blessed man for her to be dropping pearls like that. And it's not wasted on the swine. So I have a question for the audience before we conclude. I'm going to put it in the comment section. Is it ever right to exercise disloyalty to our government kings in favor of loyalty to the sovereign King Jesus? So I guess this is asking, where should your loyalty lie? If you have to choose one or the other, if Jesus is king, but we have these government kings that rule over the land and they're contradicting one another, which one do you choose? Because we're supposed to be law-abiding citizens, but we're also supposed to be God-glorifying citizens of heaven.
Right.
That's my question, Los.
Yeah. Of course, it's an easy answer. You do what God says to do first and foremost. That even goes for like wives, you know. If your husband's trying to get you to do something sinful, you don't do that. And vice versa, the husband towards the wife, you know. The wife is trying to influence you to do something that's ungodly, you say no. No matter who it is, you know. Our allegiance is to Christ and Christ alone, you know, and our convictions, our lives stem from that, you know. So what the culture has tried to do is separate public from private, you know, like your faith, keep it private, not public. And no, it affects both of the spheres of influences we're in, you know. If I only do it privately and not publicly, it's not authentic. It's not real. You know, it's preferential. But Christianity doesn't lend itself to be left to, you know, preferences. It's the truth. You know, it's something that affects the very core of a person. You know, your heart is changed.
Yeah.
And Jesus said that out of it come out all the issues of life, not just the private ones, also the public ones. And so I think Christians need to wake up a little bit, man. We need to stop being ashamed of the gospel, you know, and afraid. We need to just blatantly share it because it's what changes lives.
Amen.
You know, so yeah, definitely. If the government in this, and no matter, it really don't matter what government it is. in China, in Australia, Canada, United States, any government that seeks to force a people to commit acts of sin we as Christians must adhere to the scriptures, to what God said first, even at the cost of our lives, you know. And by God's grace, we'll be able to do that. I like to think that I could say, nah, kill me. But I know by myself, I'm a coward. I wouldn't be able to do that. But by God's grace, I would be, you know. So our allegiance is to Christ and Christ alone. And that's it.
Wow. Is there anything you wanted to conclude with at this point?
Yeah. I just want to make it simple. A theocracy is a government in which God is the ruler. Period. And whether you think we're in a democracy or a republic or a communist country, all of it falls under a theocracy. He's king over everything. Whether you like it or not, he's king over those who are unbelievers. He's king over the fields. He's king over the planet. He's king over, you know, even the evil that happens in this world. You know, he's king, and he's sovereign over everything. Nothing is done without, you know, going by Christ. And he's coming back for his people. And I can't wait till he comes back, and Maranatha, as we say, you know, Lord, come, you know. And it's going to be a dreadful day for the wicked, but what a beautiful day it's going to be for the righteous, man. I can't wait. I can't wait to see him, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. And the beauty of it, and I don't serve him because of this, but the beauty of it is he's inviting those who he made sons and daughters to sit with him in high places, to rule and to reign. So not only do we get to enjoy the view we see on the throne forever, we get to enjoy also the benefits of Christ. And so be encouraged, believer and saint. Be discerning. Pray for Kanye, if anything. Pray for those in Hollywood that need Christ. You know, anyone who converts and professes, always be hopeful, prayerful. Never stop being discerning. But there is a difference between being discerning and suspicious of everything, and then also being suspicious of others who are hopeful. You know, I actually feel sorry for those people. And a lot of those people do happen to be in churches. So if you're one of those who are always suspicious, always trying to assert motives on people, repent. You need to, you know, ask God for forgiveness, and be more hopeful. Rejoice at the fact simply that even with selfish ambition and even with ill motives, the gospel is being proclaimed. Join Paul and rejoice. You know, no matter what's going on out there, if the gospel is being proclaimed, rejoice. So
amen.
What to say.
I like that conclusion. I guess what I'll have to say is, regardless on where you stand on your view of Kanye and his conversion, his Sunday services, Jesus is King album, just everything that's going on behind all of this, let's keep him in prayer.
Yeah.
Let's keep him in prayer that if he is doing wrong, he would come to repentance. If he is being deceptive on purpose, let's pray that he's exposed. And if he really is a genuine believer, let's pray that God would continue to sanctify him. Because if he is a genuine believer, that means that he's already started the work in Kanye. Right. And we know what God has started, he will bring to completeness. Amen. Completion. So right. let's pray for Kanye in that regards. But I have 3 questions for this episode right here that we can all reflect on later, or now. Number 1, do you recognize Jesus as the King of Kings, the greatest of all kings, more powerful than all others that have come, are present, and will come? Number 2, will you tell others? What does that mean whenever you have conversations with other people? Can they see it? Because my third question is Jesus, if Jesus is king, is he Lord of your life? Is he Lord of my life, your life, our lives? Because it's one thing to claim Jesus as king, but do you serve him as the Lord of your life? We will all bow to King Jesus. Just know that, whether you believe in him or not, we will all bow down to King Jesus one day. Now or later.
Better now.
Now or later. Let's have that now and later faith instead of that
Right.
later faith. Let's have the bow down to him now and later.
Right. And stop acting like Jesus ain't king, man.
Right.
You know,
put some
for real.
respect on his name.
Yeah, like, come on. And I'm speaking to myself too here, you know. Especially those overly suspicious people about everything. They get on my nerves, man. I'm tired of y'all.
Right.
You know, stop bugging. Like, act like Jesus is king.
Talk to him.
I'm serious, man. It's like, it's pathetic. People are just like phobic with it. Like, act like Jesus is sovereign, man. You know, practice out what you say Jesus is. If he's king, he got this. You know what I mean? You don't freak out of, you know, for everything in the culture. Like, matter of fact, Jesus said it would happen. You know, that the last days will be what they are. Act like Jesus is king for once, please. You know, because, you know, I'm tired of the Facebook posts about, oh, you know, Kanye's this or y'all being deceived. It's like, look, we believe Jesus is king. He's sovereign. We're hopeful. We rejoice, even if it's out of ill motives, because Christ is being proclaimed. Get over it, you know, and read your Bible. That would help you to stop being suspicious. And that's discernment is not being suspicious at everything. Discernment is using the scriptures, using truth to measure and weigh things carefully. It's not being suspicious all the time, you know. So cut it out, you know. Pray for Kanye, if anything, and stop bugging over people that are being hopeful. You know what I mean? So sorry. I just came out, my bad. I love y'all.
One more time for those in the back.
Gotcha.
One more time for those in the back. This was episode 31 of The Basement.
Is this your king? Huh? Is this your king?
Yo, he hit him with a gut punch, man. That shit was crazy. Is this your king? Oh, man.
right.
Those of you that tuned in today or later, now and later, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit the like button and share it. Support The Basement. We come here live every Wednesday on the Wrath and Grace page, 9 p.m. Eastern time. You guys make sure you tune in next week, episode 32. I already have an idea for it. I'm going to run it past Los and we'll see. It's going to be good though. No matter what we choose next week, it's going to be good because I already have one good idea, which means if I don't choose that idea, there's going to be an even better idea.
No doubt.
So you guys make sure you tune into another episode of the Basement, where theology meets the thoughts of life. Do we got any shout outs? Did we do the shout outs at the beginning of the episode? I guess I'll do it one more time. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't liked it, subscribed, go to The Basement. That's our Facebook group. That's where we post clips and start conversations throughout the week. I also keep you guys updated on when I upload the audio files. So if you haven't done it already, go ahead to wrathandgrace.com.
Yeah.
And you can, for free, I know you guys love free stuff. You guys can download and stream the Basement audios. And you can also do that for the other two podcasts that are part of Wrath and Grace as well. Cross Examine. We played one of the hosts of Cross Examine, his song at the beginning of the episode.
Right.
Kurt Kennedy. Go ahead and check him out. You have Cross Examine and then Wrath and Grace Radio podcast. So yeah, we got all of those things for you guys for free. So go ahead and check that out. We Well, I'm a member. He's the pastor at Christ Alone Fellowship. So you guys can check out our church
I'm
if you're
number
ever
2.
in the area. You're number I am number 2. Yeah.
I said I'm a member too.
I thought you were talking about the phrase "I am number 2." Do you remember that?
No. I don't,
Oh, okay. I am number 2. All right. So anyway, I thought you were calling yourself Kawhi Leonard by number 2. No, I'm messing. Anyway, all right. I'm out. We're out.
All right.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Grace and peace. Oh man, David. What's funny is he says we need an episode on judging.
That was our first one.
That was our very first episode, David. It's called Only God Can Judge Me.
Yeah.
Go ahead back, check out wrathandgrace.com. I have all the episodes of The Basement on there from episode 1 to episode 30. And this is 31, so give it a couple days and I'm going to have this one up too. I want to do a follow-up to that episode. I was planning it out today.
We could do that.
I don't know the name of it yet, but it might be called Only God Can't Judge Me. So I don't know. We're going to throw some things together and figure it out. But I wanted to deal with judgment, God's judgment. Because we did talk about God's judgment, but we talked about it in a different way. Episode 1 talked about us judging others, the world judging us, and God's judgment on all.
Yeah.
So I want to do a follow-up episode into his judgment. Is it fair? If it is fair, then why does he allow these things to go on? So we'll be dealing with some fairness, judgment, and even social justice issues in that episode.
Yeah, I think having Tim Bertolette, for an episode 2, we got to think through that, but he would be helpful with some of the heavy theological parts of some of the discussions.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I'm just reading some of these comments and everybody was loving the end of the podcast, so that's good. All right, so before we get back into the comments section, let's do the speed round.
Oh.
I got 3 questions for you today, Los. Need you to answer them concisely and precisely as you can.
I'll try.
All right. Number 1. What do we hope to see following the release of Jesus is King? What do we hope to see from Kanye, from the world, from Christians, anything else in general that we hope to see from Jesus is King being released? Let's start off. Let me run it down the line for you.
Yeah.
What do we hope to see from Kanye following the release of Jesus is King?
All right, let me think through this. What do I hope to see from Kanye? Well, I would say continual growth. I hope he's continually being taught biblically. I want to see him mature in his faith, man. And also, somewhat concerned in how's he going to respond to like a Joel Osteen or a T.D. Jakes. That's going to be interesting. I saw somewhere where, I don't know if it's a rumor, but how Osteen invited him to his church. You know what I'm saying? So that's going to be interesting to see how that's navigated through. And but yeah.
He is not going to Reformed Theological Seminary, by the way. That was a rumor.
Yeah.
That was a rumor.
I
Just
bet.
clearing that one up.
Yeah.
What do we hope to see from the world?
Like I said, man, I hope Christ is proclaimed continually, even if it's done out of selfish ambition and without sincerity. Like, I just pray that the gospel continues to go forth, no matter what.
How about Christian musicians, Christian celebrities?
I hope for the ones, at least for the ones that backed off on being blatantly gospel, I hope this sobered them up a little bit. I hope it brought conviction. Because I think some of them thought strategically about not being blatantly gospel, and I hope this is a smack in the face, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To them for doing that. I often think this is probably God's judgment on Christian hip hop sometimes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
on those people that, you know, thought strategically about it, but who knows, you know?
Yeah. All right, next question. What surprised you most about the Jesus is King album when you heard it?
What surprised me most? The God Is track.
Why did that surprise you?
Because
Is that the one with No Malice and Pusha T and Kenny G?
No.
No, that one is okay. Anyway, God
Yeah.
Is track. Yeah.
It's the one where Kanye's singing.
Oh yeah.
It surprised me because I was surprised at how I felt about the track.
Okay.
I was moved by it. I was just like,
Gave you the goosies.
yeah, I was like almost teary-eyed over it. I was praying and hoping that, man, I pray, Lord, you know, if you're doing this, do it, you know, and continue to do it. It just, here's a guy who, you know, did the music he did, and I'm comparing this album with like what I've been hearing out there, and it's like, yeah, it was special.
A lot of us were skeptical. We didn't know how bold he was going to be with his message.
Yeah.
Anyway, this isn't for me. My bad. Let me see. Anything you didn't like from Jesus is King?
Well, I like hearing lyricism. So, you know, even though the lyrics were, you know, heartfelt and authentic, it wasn't the underground East Coast lyrical MC
Hard,
type
gritty.
thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from its creativity. I just think lyrically speaking, I don't think it was creative enough. But I don't think that's what Kanye was out to do anyway. So
Yeah. Now, I don't think that's ever what he's out to do.
yeah, you know what I'm saying?
It's never been him.
Yeah.
I get it. No, I get it. A lot of people were looking for that, more lyricism.
Yeah, I didn't expect that too, you know, because I heard some of his stuff before. So I wasn't that ignorant of Kanye, but, you know, as someone who likes to hear lyricism, I was just like, you know, okay, that wasn't there, but that's not what he was out to do anyway. So, yeah. The tracks were, you know, not long enough. You know, it's like you can go through the whole album so quick. It's like,
I explained that before, remember?
yeah, it's
That's
like,
that's the way business is, guys.
Yeah.
Those of you that are out there,
yeah.
if the song is 1 minute, if it's over 1 minute and 30 seconds to 2 minutes, it counts as one stream. You only get paid for the first minute 30 to 2 minutes.
Right.
Anything after 2 minutes, you don't get paid for.
But that kind of spoils it for me, though.
It
too.
does.
It's like,
It does.
you know, yeah. It's like, to me, hip hop is like an art form.
It
you
is.
know, and just paint the picture however you want. Don't worry about the price. Don't worry about the audience. Do you, you know, like, and Kanye's good at that. So I don't know. Someone said he felt the album was rushed. It might have been Kurt or someone. I don't think I felt that. I think I just felt like it was too short. And
You know what, though? He's still new. Maybe he didn't have a whole lot to say.
maybe.
I remember
don't
being
know.
a new Christian. There were certain songs that I just didn't have 3 verses for.
Yeah.
I had like one good verse, and then I asked somebody else to jump on the track with me. Now, if I'd have been a new Christian today and I was able to just put out a song that's 2 minutes long, I wouldn't have needed anybody else. Back then, when I became a Christian in 2010, we were still putting out 3 verses and a hook.
Yeah.
Sometimes you even put an intro and an outro to the song on top of the 3 verses and a hook. So
Yeah.
it's acceptable nowadays for shorter songs, and when you don't have a lot of content. Maybe he just didn't have a lot of content. I don't know.
Yeah, it was just like every track was short though, so it was a pattern, you know.
Yeah.
So it was just like, you know. But anyway, that's
I think he kept it short and sweet.
yeah,
Because if he'd have put too much on there, we would have probably been complaining like, that was a little bit too much.
true.
My 3 favorite tracks, because David said he that was his favorite too. God is. My 3 favorite tracks were, and this is no particular order. Every Hour, that was the first song. You know, every hour, every day, you know, every minute, every hour, every minute, second. I love that. I was listening to that on my way to work today. My second, another song that I like is Follow God.
The beat was, that beat was crazy.
Follow God, man. That's the one I did the remix to. I dropped the verse on that track because I liked it that much. It was just one of those things, man. And then my third one was the song with No Malice and Pusha T. And Kenny G. I couldn't believe it.
Use This Gospel.
Oh my gosh. Yo, Use This Gospel. Tiff just finally heard the sax on there this morning. I was playing it for her on her way to work.
Sharp. He's always sharp. He's always sharp.
It's Kenny G. I grew up on Kenny G because of my dad. So to this day, I love jazz and I love Kenny G. So I've always been a fan of Kanye and I've always been a fan of Clips. Like it's just all my favorites on one song. I couldn't believe it. And the beat was dope. And the content was crazy.
Water was dope too.
Oh yeah, Water was good too. Yeah. All of the songs really. I've had them on repeat because you can even throw in there Close on Sunday.
Yeah.
Close on Sunday. Yeah, my kids actually, that's their favorite song. Yeah. My son too, he loves that. With the lemonade. He loves that. Tiff says mine's is Everything We Need. Oh yeah. Jesus is Everything We Need. Oh, I love that song. Now that I think about it. Yeah, I love that one too. That message, Jesus is Everything We Need. Bro, that surprised me when I heard that song. Yeah. I asked you what surprised you from Jesus is King. That song surprised me the most. Jesus is Everything We Need. I wasn't expecting something that deep from Kanye. I could see Jesus is what we need. Jesus is what the world needs. But Jesus is everything we need. He actually talked about Jesus is all that we don't need nothing else. So when he said that, I was like, oh, he got me sold, bro. He got me sold. Yeah, that's my song, man. I love that album. No, I Didn't, Babe. What was she talking about? No, I Didn't, Babe. Oh, what? She saying she didn't like the sax? I don't know. Saxophone? I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Those of you that are watching, if you haven't done it already, go ahead and like the video. Continue to comment and share the video. Share the video on your timeline with somebody you know. We're just heading on out. We're going to look at some of these comments before we go. I could go on all day about this album, though. Let me see. I can go on all day about this album and why it's important that he dropped it, too. It really, years later, I guarantee, either good or bad, we're going to look at this point in history and say, do you remember when Kanye dropped that album? Yeah. Because, like I said earlier, it's just on so many different facets that he made an impact. So you're talking about the music industry. I mean, the numbers that he put up. All his songs on this album, did you know that they're all Billboard 100?
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's ridiculous.
Seen that.
Did you know that oh man, I forgot the other part I was gonna mention. But he's doing numbers. He's doing crazy numbers. His streams are out the park, which means that Jesus is King is getting streamed everywhere.
Yeah.
Like somebody said earlier in the episode, it's a big thing in Times Square with Jesus is King album. You know, that's dope. Brittany says, agreed about being surprised with everything we need. The Adam and Eve lyric was great. Oh yeah. That was one of my favorite lyrics. You talk about lyricism, that part. You know how I feel. We talked about hip hop and lyricism. You know how I feel about that. What if Adam would have put the apple back on the tree and tell Eve what we have is what we have everything we need? Yo, that line was so crazy. Imagine that. What if Adam would have told Eve that we have everything we need? Oh, that's so deep. I'm gonna go home and listen to it. Yo, Kurt is on right now. We should play the track real quick. So, Kurt Kennedy dropped the track. He's one of our favorite artists on the show. He's already been on the show as a guest. So, without further ado, let's play his response to Jesus is King and everything going on behind that.
All right, give me a second.
Okay.
Here.
This song is called Ananias. Guys, listen to the lyrics, man. Listen to the lyrics.
All right. Let's make this happen.
Rap, crime, react time, see acts 9, cap minds, gotta retract lines, I fact find, relax time, or perhaps I'm just that blind, I gotta say something, cause saying nothing's for that mom, context time, salvation for the unlikely, this blasphemer church persecutor had Nike all in his psyche, just do it, when it came to what might be the persecution of the branches, the divine had been rooting despite the challenges, what all God saw was all lack, was the light and so the light came to Saul and he falls back, when the light claim was Saul took his eyes till he saw that, being Saul, what he saw was the reason it's all black. But the Lord had people they weren't accepting it. Ananias was honest and told him he wasn't getting it. He was fretting and doubting that Jesus even knew the dude until the Lord was...
I think I was about to say the background music is still playing.
Oh, wow. My bad, Kurt.
Yo, play that back. There you go.
There we go.
Rap, crime, react time, see acts 9, cap minds, gotta retract lines, I fact find, relax time, or perhaps I'm just that blind, I gotta say something, cause saying nothing's for that mom, context time, salvation for the unlikely, this blasphemer church persecutor had Nike all in his psyche, just do it, when it came to what might be the persecution of the branches, the divine had been rooting despite the challenges, what all God saw was all lack, was the light and so the light came to Saul and he falls back, when the light claim was Saul took his eyes till he saw that, being Saul, what he saw was the reason it's all black, all facts. But the Lord had people they weren't accepting it. Ananias was honest and told him he wasn't getting it. He was fretting and doubting that Jesus even knew the dude until the Lord was like, nah, Ananias, he been renewed. Dudes doubting conversions like they liars. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Dudes mad cause their music ain't reached the highest. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Fast forward, the culture is pretty bored with any music that's highlighting Jesus, they see as morbid. They've been boxing me in, so I'm practicing with a forklift. Cause it's hard to be a fisherman when there's only swordfish. Lots of dudes with bars been doing it, trying to penetrate. But CHH ain't the letters they wanna celebrate. When they hear Jesus, that Bible will quickly hesitate. And some couldn't beat him and join them and also denigrate. Then Kanye West got saved and it was surprising that old Kanye that they missing, God ain't revive him. His newfound faith gave him music that was inspiring. He always had choirs but now acquired the fire inside of a new convert. But some dudes got all smirks cause Jesus is king. Got some artists with feelings all hurt cause they ain't get support and their album got better joints, fam. Who got it better albums? Really missing the point, man. Dudes doubting dudes conversions like they liars. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Dudes mad cause their music ain't reached the highest. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Dudes acting like the skepticism is the wisest. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Dudes do it for the Lord but when nobody buys it. Acts 9, not Acts 5, you Ananias. Salvation is still popping, but when you famous believers will doubt you like they are Thomas. I'm honest, I've done it too, and professions aren't really credible. Thank the bread of life, but then later he's not edible. But I see a trend to the scriptures I had to pour through. Why with certain conversions or men they needed some more fruit? The apostles were baptized, anybody that's with it, they wasn't looking for fruits and believing that Jesus did it. Some of them won't admit it, but they are the older brother who's angry because the father's celebrating another. There's people leaving the faith, shaming the throne of grace, and he's saying Jesus is king, but you acting like you the ace. So there's a con, and it's Kanye. Don't con Kanye, cause some of y'all's grace is to Grace Jones. You strong, Jay. We gotta do better than this, gotta do right, and be the Ananias that saying, brother, receive sight. Dudes is emotional, all in their feelings. Where's Strack when I need him? Philosophy.
Yeah, I like that. All right, so yeah, man, I like that. We had somebody was quoting the lyrics. Someone said better. Oh, yeah. So we're out of here. I don't have a whole lot more to say.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you guys for tuning in. And you know what? I'll throw this out there. If you guys have any other topics that you think we should cover, go ahead and throw it in the comment section, or just even message us, like Facebook message us, so that we could talk to you a little bit more about what your idea is for the episode. We have done that before, where we do the viewers' choice episodes, where somebody wants us to do something, and then we'll find a creative way to put it into an episode. So, to the faithful few that are still on right now, I'll give you guys that chance. You guys will be the first ones up. Somebody already said judging earlier this episode, that we should do an episode on judging, which is crazy because I just had an idea for a touch-up, a revisiting that topic from episode 1, Only God Can Judge Me. So anyway, hold on real quick, one more time. This has been episode 31 of The Basement, where theology meets the thoughts of life.
Is this your king? Huh? Is this your king?
Is this your king?
You love that.
I love it, yo. Look, man, I'm so mad that they killed off Killmonger, man. They could have had him live, and then he could have been by T'Challa's side, man. Come on,
There's
man.
a rumor.
I know.
There's a rumor.
That's all I'm bringing up. All right. Anyway, I love that part. It's going to make me want to go home and watch Black Panther.
Lewis wants us to do an episode on Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A culture.
I wonder about this dude, man.
We did touch on Chick-fil-A and surviving cancel culture.
All right, Lewis, there you go.
Episode 28, brother. Refer to episode 28, surviving cancel culture.
Right.
All right. That's funny. All right, man. This has been another episode of The Basement, where theology meets the thoughts of life. Episode 31. Is this your king? We out, man. We out.
All right, y'all. Grace and peace.